No, at this point we're still waiting. The Iranian government says it needs time because it's just been put into office, and so it's trying to organize itself, which is understandable, but at the same time, time is passing, and at some point we'll have to see whether Iran is seriously prepared to come back to talks and what nuclear advances it will have made in the meantime, because as Secretary Blinken has said, we can't wait forever as Iran continues its nuclear advances, because at some point their advances will be such as to make a return to the JCPOA much less valuable to the U.S. than it would otherwise be. So we're prepared to be patient. We have been patient. We understand it's a transition. We went through a transition as well. But let's not drag this on for too long, because at some point we'll have to reach a different conclusion.
What's the amount of time you're willing to wait? Hossein Amir Abdollahian, the foreign minister, spoke to state TV this week and said the government needs about 2 to 3 months. Are you looking at talks now in November?
I think that statement may have been slightly misunderstood. At least the indications we're having from other conversations that have taken place with the foreign minister is that he didn't necessarily mean that we'd have to wait another 2 to 3 months. But I want to make a broader point, which is, yes, of course, it's important to come back to talks. It's important to come back to talks as soon as we can. But the main point is, when we come back to talks, if we do, if Iran is prepared to do so, because we are, what is going to be the position of the Iranian government? Are we going to have a realistic position in which both sides are prepared to make the necessary compromises for a mutual return to the JCPOA? We've said we're prepared to lift those sanctions that are inconsistent with the deal, and to do that if Iran reverses those nuclear steps that are inconsistent with the deal. If that's the approach we take, we should be able to reach a deal relatively quickly. But if Iran is asking more of the U.S. than is provided in the deal, or is prepared to do less than it is committed to in the deal, then it doesn't matter whether we resume the talks yesterday, today, or in 3 months. We will hit an impasse, and that's what we hope to avoid.
Iran says that it must have a guarantee from the United States that the U.S. won't exit the deal like it did under the Trump administration. Also, it wants to verify sanction removal is effective and tangible. Is this something the United States could forthrightly give to this regime?
So I think, and we've had many discussions indirectly, because the Iranians won't speak to us directly, we've had many discussions about this issue of guarantees. What we've said is, number one, President Biden has not been spending all this time and made a commitment during the campaign and since he's been president of his readiness to re-enter a mutual re-entry into the deal, or enter compliance with the deal, in order to then pick up and leave and withdraw again. Clearly, he believes, as his administration does, that it's in the U.S. national interest to be part of the deal and for Iran and the U.S. to both live up to their commitments. So that's number one. Number two, we have seen already over the past few years what happens when the U.S. withdraws from the deal. That's why we want to come back in, is because we've seen the implications, the consequences of the decision by the Trump administration to withdraw from the deal. We've had to deal with a runaway Iran nuclear program, with increased tensions in the region. So our goal, our national interest, is to come back into the deal if Iran is prepared to do so. Again, that's another guarantee, if you will, or at least should give Iran some degree of assurance. But as for a formal guarantee, formal assurance, that simply cannot be part of the deal, because it was not part of the deal that was negotiated in 2015 and 2016. If Iran wants something different, in which the U.S. and Iran would make different kinds of commitments, then we'll be talking about negotiating a different deal. But if what Iran wants is a return to the JCPOA, then the JCPOA is what it was, the nuclear deal. There's no such thing as firm assurances. This was a political understanding between among the 6 countries. And the understanding was all sides were committed to the deal. If one side violated it, the other one would respond in kind. That's what's happened, and that's why now we want to come back in. So I say this clearly: if what Iran is looking for is something different, then let's negotiate a different deal. If what they want is a return to the JCPOA, let's go back to the terms that were agreed to in 2016.